I'll share kind of the purpose of the community. I mean, a purpose of the Pulse survey, which was really to learn about community needs. With that in mind, what we sat down to do, so there was a larger group of us that actually did it. It was the community continuity group that has now morphed into the community and culture work stream as part of the Task Force 2021. But the thought was is we really need to get a sense of what was happening at MIT within the community in light of the COVID response. And so with that, there are a host of questions we could ask. And we also had a few different design pieces in mind in terms of wanting it to be short, et cetera. The pyramid framework is what we used in terms of determining what were the buckets or categories of questions that we might ask. And so we really wanted a theoretical framework, if you will. And if you look at it, if anyone's familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's somewhat based off of that in terms of the physical resources are down below. At the bottom as a foundation, we're wanting to know what people physically needed. Technical resources are in regards to more of the like what office furniture, etc. Engagement resources and how to engage you. The idea being is that you need the physical and technical in order to engage. And then the last one being the social and emotional resources in terms of how all of that kind of contributes to your social and emotional well-being. And so knowing that, we were looking at the different components and how we might craft a survey that would help us understand what might be needed in those different points. Then within that, as we worked towards that survey, there was the contextual questions, community questions, remote questions, on-site questions, and childcare questions were the overarching 5 themes or buckets, if you will, within the survey, where we were really looking to target questions. And so below each of those categories is an example of a question from the survey that speaks to that particular category. Again, it helped us with kind of the design process and really trying to get as quickly as possible a sense, a pulse of the community and what was happening in terms of their working remote experience, as well if someone was on site. Childcare was something that repeatedly was coming up. We heard anecdotally, so we wanted to capture that. And then there were the contextual and community questions. This was also part of a larger, we also used in crafting the survey, John Carroll in the in Sloan, the School of Management, had also been working on a study in partnership with a group in Switzerland and was interested in adapting that to the MIT community. And so that served as also kind of a basis for starting with some questions and then moving from there. Overall, the purpose of our study was really to inform decision makers. And so again, the community and culture work stream is where it's come from now. That group, the community continuity group, when it started, had representatives from the graduate student voice, the undergraduate student voice. It was composed largely of staff because at the time students were trying to figure out what they would be doing with COVID response. And so that also dictated kind of who we asked those initial questions to in the initial Pulse survey. And so department labs and centers, Lincoln Lab was also included. It informed the work of committees. It also, the public at large and MIT community, and then again was part of the research project with Professor John Carroll. And so those are the different decision makers that have happened. There's different pieces that have happened as a result of that Pulse survey in terms of more interest in diving deeper into childcare, also whether or not childcare subsidies would be used, et cetera. The data has been used to inform some of those different initiatives and has kind of happened over time after it was administered in June, I think was the first one, and then the next one first one was towards the end of May, and then the second one was in July. And so we're starting to get an idea kind of trends. Obviously, a lot happened between the two, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But this is overall, again, the purpose of it was really to inform the decisions that were being made as we were moving forward and trying to respond to COVID and so that we could effectively allocate resources or also highlight pain points that people were having for managers as well as senior leaders at the Institute. So Kate, did you want to add anything?
I think that covers it. Yeah, the data has been used by groups across campus. So we're happy to see that.
Yes.